Hey guys, what's up? Boston Smith here again to do a review of another fountain pen. This is a pretty simple one, the Daiso fountain pen. That's a Japanese name. I don't know if the pen itself has a specific name or model number because the package is all in Japanese. Here's the blister pack. It says fountain pen cartridge type. So obviously it's a cartridge pen, although it is standard international, so you could put a standard international converter in it. Medium line. It's interesting. As we'll see, comes with one ink cartridge, blue. All the important stuff you see is in English. Daiso, which is the brand, and on the back we have how to fill a fountain pen in case you need to know that. And then here we have material, which I think is very strange. It tells you what goes into the fountain pen itself: iron, copper, and acrylic, and then propylene, dye, and water. Would like to know what the dye is, but you know, it tells you what the what's in the cartridge. I think that's different. It's a bit strange. It's of course not an actual formula or anything, but I guess if you're allergic to water, then it's good to know. I have absolutely no idea. That probably means, though, it's not a water-resistant ink. When dry, it's pretty basic stuff. Anyway, we'll look at the pen real quick. That blister isn't the most interesting thing in the world. Up at the top we have exactly nothing. It's just a flat piece of non-focusing stuff. The clip is a little attachment point. Doesn't look that clean, but these pens are not very expensive. The clip is a bit tight, but it doesn't really tear your shirt or anything when you're clipping onto that, so that's nice. Very simple body, slight tapers at either end. Got these two rings here, which help to just kind of break it up a little bit. The bottom has a little step there for posting, which the pen does do. It pops on nicely. It doesn't really pop on the back, but it does get held. It does have a plastic inner cap, so be careful posting it too deep. You might crack the cap, which will cause the pen to dry out. Although I have already recorded a segment of this video where the pen might not be the most sealed pen anyway. Got a little step down here to the section, very slight taper, you know, good enough grip. Got a little bump on the end there for the cap to catch on. Makes a nice satisfying click, although it is a bit loose once you put it on. Click, 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 click. Anyway, the nib says iridium point, I believe. Let's see, I got a little bit of ink on my hand. The nib says iridium point. Not much else. A little bit of scroll work, but it's one of those simple German nibs. There is no inscription that I can find telling you what the size is, although it does say medium on the box. So we'll go with medium, which is interesting because this seems like a bit of a fine. It's a medium fine to me. Anyway, let's get to the writing so you can see that. All right, here we are writing with the Daiso fountain pen. I never do a post for these things. Let's see. The nib is apparently a medium, although I would call it more of a fine. It's sort of close to a fine. It's not really. It's hard to tell. Anyway, the ink is an ink that I have no idea about. It's just an ink. I had this cartridge is not the cartridge that originally came with it. As you can see, it's used quite a bit of ink in there, but it kind of evaporates more out of this pen than it does out of my other pens. Anyway, let's see if we can write with it. I didn't do that right, but whatever. It writes really pretty smoothly for the price. It's got a bit of a scratch to it. I don't know if you can hear that. It does scratch a bit as you're writing. It's not the most pleasant feeling, but it does lay down ink, which is what it's supposed to do. Reverse is almost not different at all. Jeez, I can't spell that word recently. Anyway, it's almost not different. There's a little bit of a burr that you can feel, kind of snags and it snags about in the same spot on in the regular way, except just not nearly as bad. There's also virtually no intentional line variation that can be achieved there. You can get some, but I would imagine that would be damaging to the nib. The ink does kind of dry up a little bit in the pan, as I was mentioning. The water sort of evaporates, so you have this very dark line starting out, and then I don't know quite if it shows up on camera as much, but this line right here is much lighter than this dark line that it started out with. So you do get a bit of that sort of effect when you... I use it every day, so it's not like it's sitting out for forever. And again, I've run through 2.5 cartridges in the time I've run through one cartridge in almost every other pen, or less. Particular, this just for a size comparison is a medium for a cross pen, and then we'll do, say, the Pilot Varsity, which is a disposable pen. It would help if I could spell words. There we go. Those are also a medium point. So as you can see, medium has quite a bit of variation. These two are much closer than the cross, which is a bit bolder, closer to broad. I would say again, this is a bit thinner than the Pilot Varsity. Of course, it depends on the ink as well. This ink is pretty runny, so you've got that sort of drier ink in the Pilot. Makes a bit of lines a bit the same, the runny and the dry ink. I'd say it's close to a fine. The ink that comes with it has a very weird, distinct smell as well. I don't know if I mentioned that in the part that I recorded previously. It's got a very strange smell, just a bit different. I don't know, that's why they put the ingredients on or whatever, but it dries up much faster than even this does, and it's got a very, very strange smell. So I don't know about that ink. It's a pretty cheap ink. The pen itself is, of course, pretty cheap. Comes in a blister pack. This was bought in Japantown, so you know it's an import that's probably not very expensive at all. So it's a good for the price that I assume it is. I didn't actually get it, so I don't know quite what the price is, but it does write. It is a hardy little thing. It probably won't break unless you abuse it. The most likely to fail thing is, again, that plastic inner cap. So it's a good, handy little pen. It's a nice introduction. It writes, unlike some other introductory fountain pens. It's pretty easy. You do have to wait for a little bit when you plug the cartridge in. It does take a bit for the feed to soak up the ink and let you write, but it's better than many other introductory fountain pens that I've handled. So it's nice. I like it, and I would recommend picking one up, although they in the United States might be quite rare. Anyway, bye. But I don't feel like I can do a full review on it because it's basically been sitting on my desk the entire time. I haven't really put some real use on it. But during that time, the cartridge that the pen came with has almost entirely fallen out of the pen, which is not what I expected to have happen. Reinstall that while this is going on. I guess I shook the pen up a bit. But as you can see, you get a little bit of ink on your fingers when you do that. But as you can see, there is almost no ink left in there. Turn it over like this. So I think the pen is either drying up, maybe there's an air leak, or the ink actually has the ingredients listed on the package, and so maybe it's a different type of ink. It certainly smells a little bit different than usual, so maybe it's a different type of ink and it's just more prone to evaporating. Whatever the case, I do want to show you guys the original color that the ink it comes with, is because I will probably be reviewing this pen with a different ink in it. So let's see, let's hope it doesn't just be exploding the entire time. Anyway, this ink is a blue-black ink. This is, like I say, the one it comes with. It's a standard international cartridge. And it's a fairly standard blue-black ink, just a darker blue. It's a nice ink, I like it. But yeah, like here's a just for comparison, a cross pen I've been using about the same amount of time, and as you can see, the amount of ink in there is considerably more than a ink in the Daiso pen, and I think they hold about the same amount of ink as standard international across cartridge. So yeah, that's the ink in this pen. It dries out very fast, so be aware of that.